Hi, Richard.
Hi, Fran.
How are you?
I'm very good. Yourself?
I'm very good, thank you. And yeah, actually, this week I think is a fascinating topic because this is spoken many, many times at a strategic level or C level, but it's always a challenge because what is real-time data? So having the data, but what is a real-time data? So usually it seems that the data is there, but how you bring that amount of information to something that can be actionable and the people can take or make decisions. Um, so the question
Well,
will be, why is real-time data such a big deal for C leaders
hmm.
today when this the era of technology, AI, machine learning, etc., etc.?
Well, it's all the difference between chaos and clarity,
Right.
basically, right? If I was to put it into a nutshell, why is real-time data such a big deal? Because real-time data compresses the decision loop,
Mm,
right? Either the confirmation or something that you need to change or an alert or something along those lines. Every minute that passes between operational activity, execution, or incident reduces, the value goes down
right.
every single minute, right? It reduces the value of insights, right? Insights that are created from data. So there's a difference between data and information.
Right.
Information is stuff that you use to support your decisions or to confirm them or to give you a contextual alert or something along those lines.
Yeah.
Data is just you know bits and bytes sitting in a table somewhere, right? In today's volatile world, you're either reacting late or you're responding live to
Right.
what's going on the ground. If data is delayed, then opportunities are denied. It's that simple.
Right. So, but it's and you heard that often. I say, give me data, give me more data. And but is having more data always better than whatever you currently produce as naturally in your business?
Not technically, no. Most executives are overloaded with data,
Right.
right? But
Yeah.
they're starved for insight. They're starved for information. The real issue is latency and context,
Right.
right? You don't need more data necessarily. You
Yeah.
need decision ready data, which
Right.
is information, right? And it needs to be delivered on time while you can still do something in response to that information.
Right. So and when people say they are bottlenecks in their companies,
Mm,
um so what are these bottlenecks and when that data stop to be useful to become a problem? Because they say we have a lot of information here, but actually, how can make it this useful? So what's the bottleneck
right.
for that?
There's basically three things that companies will come up against
Right.
that I would call bottlenecks,
Yeah.
right? The typical ones are number one is latency, right? Information arrives after the moment to make any decisions has passed, right? So it's just taken too long. Now,
Yeah.
once upon a time, that was a technical challenge, but the internet connectivity, LANs and WANs and computer
Yeah.
systems and all that other kind really brought that in. Yeah. And it's very similar to having bad latency for an internet connection,
Yeah.
waiting for that screen to load before you can choose what your next menu selection is going to be.
Right.
That's bad. All right. So you want low latency. There's also the concept of silos. That's the next bottleneck, right?
Yeah.
And that's where, and this is the worst case of silos, and it informed the design of our product, right? When there are separate silos for strategy and operational execution, that's the worst silos to have.
Right.
So when you're running uh, governance, risk, and compliance, and ESG and EPR and in strategies in
Yeah.
one system or manually, and you're executing all of your operations over here in another system, those silos are, the fact that they're silos is a killer.
Right.
right? They need to be very closely matched. Otherwise, latency ends up depending on labor. And that is the third bottleneck. When data has to be manually curated, procured from various systems into a report, it costs time and it costs money. And the likelihood that it's going to be available in time, well, look, there's a conversion gap, right? From
Yeah.
data to information, information giving you insights, insights allowing you to act,
Yeah.
right? Without automation, you're burning effort just to understand what's happening or what happened. It's
Yeah.
too late, right? And so those three things, latency, silos, and labor, that's
Right.
where things get caught up. Yeah.
Right. So, so in terms of the operating with the real data or real-time data,
Mhm.
so how costly is that? Because actually you have APIs and bidirectional communication between the databases. So, but the reality, what is the cost there? Because beside the cost of the technology.
Well, you lose time. And time is,
Oh, right.
time is money. Time is one of the most valuable things in your business.
Yeah.
And when you lose time, with it, you lose control, right?
Yeah.
Risks escalate, delays compound, decisions are made too late to matter, right? Real-time data enables faster movement through what's called the OODA loop, OODA,
Mm.
OODA.
Yeah.
Observe, orient, decide, act,
Right.
right? That was, a concept. I mean, it's fairly simple concept, but he gave it the OODA acronym. It was developed by a U.S. Air Force colonel, John Boyd, and he used it in wartime, right? Um, and his whole approach had to do with like air superiority and rapidly, monitoring and satellites and drones and all that other kind of stuff. The superiority of a military like that in the US
Mm.
has to do with how short their OODA loop is, right?
Right.
The
Right.
loop shows how speed of response, it creates superiority. For companies, it creates competitive advantage,
Right.
right? If your data is delayed, the loop breaks
Yeah.
and your organization becomes reactive and defensive instead
Right.
of decisive and aggressive.
Yeah.
The takeaway there that late data isn't just unhelpful, it's actually dangerous because if you're giving instructions to data that's a month old,
Yeah.
right? And you haven't seen the 2 week old data, which could have informed you that the action you're taking is not a correct action. Just
Right.
think
Right.
about how that can really mess stuff up,
Yeah.
right? Yeah. So
Like,
it's about the OODA loop, the cost of operating without real-time data, without that link all the way from strategy from the top floor to the shop
yeah.
floor, is that your OODA loop is too long for you to be strategic and aggressive.
Right.
It's just not helpful. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that I love that OODA loop because actually it gives you the context before making a decision. And you hear it
Mhm.
many times that we're going to go the cost measurement adjustment and based on month delay data, not in what really happened today or even what's still going on. But I'm probably we both been in large enterprises and many things happen like quarterly business reviews and steering committees and it seems that everything is looking back, nothing. So what is a real time? What is a necessity of real time? So what about these kind of embedded cultures of quarterly business reviews or steering committees, etc.?
Oh, the old monthly reports,
Yeah, the
the
monthly
big monthly
report
report
or the
sessions.
weekly
Look,
report. Yeah,
monthly reports are useful for trends,
right.
right? But not intervention.
All
Yeah.
right. So it's a
They tell
distinction.
you what happened,
Yeah,
but not what's happening.
yeah,
Yeah. If your strategy depends on hindsight, you're not managing, you're auditing.
right.
Isn't that true? Right?
Yeah,
Real-time data is for leaders, historical data is for analysts. It's just that simple.
yeah.
So the old approach to monthly reports and then let's make our decisions and stuff like that. There's only certain businesses where you could actually get away with that nowadays. And that OODA loop is too long because you're talking about an entire month for some data because
Yeah.
that was generated 30 days ago, that kind of
Yeah.
thing, right? So the old monthly report approach, look, I'll tell you, our approach is to not even create standard canned monthly reports in Trinity for consumption by our customers. If they require one for some reason, then we'll happily create one,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But days are the gone that you buy a software platform. There's 300 monthly reports already baked into it,
Yeah.
right? That's the past.
Yeah.
We're dealing with the future. Real-time data, real-time dashboards, real-time insights, AI analytics on all of that kind of
Yeah.
stuff. And that just, if you're not doing that and your competitors are, well,
Yeah.
you're massively disadvantaged.
I
Yeah.
like this distinction that you've done in terms of reporting. What is auditing? So looking back is literally
Yeah.
auditing, and then
Yeah.
real time is managing what's going on today. So what would be a real or a practical example of real time value? What is a value in action of a real time managing?
Okay. Let's take an example like fleet emissions.
Right.
Okay. The consumption of fuel
Yeah.
inside of your fleet vehicles, that's happening every day. You have a fuel gauge, you have fuel pumps.
Yeah.
It should be entirely possible to know on an hour-to-hour basis your emissions, your greenhouse gas emissions, et cetera.
Right.
So with daily fuel data,
Yeah.
you can spot anomalies,
Right.
right? Perhaps a particular type of fuel, a particular octane of fuel, a particular fuel provider, or a particular process in your business for
Yeah.
distributing fuel, adjusting usage and reducing carbon impact immediately
Right.
based on real-time emission data. So
Yeah.
with monthly roll-ups, you miss that opportunity window. By the time you've seen it, you're an auditor. You're no longer managing,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Now, people wake up in the morning, especially management and leadership, wanting to be very, very effective.
Yeah.
And they have very little patience for that lengthy OODA loop.
Yeah.
So they end up having to find that data one way or another. It's not that leaders don't have the information they need to make decisions. It's just it ends up being a real fight with their organization to provision decisions,
Yeah.
right? So take as an example, risk management. There's something strategic, right?
Yeah.
And against that risk, you've got certain controls. You've got certain actions you're taking to mitigate or improve that opportunity or reduce that threat, right? And you've got metrics associated with that risk that are measuring operational activity inside your business.
Yeah.
Great. So now your top floor is connected to your shop floor,
Yeah.
right? And a hazard gets flagged today that it should trigger a control
Yeah.
today,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
not wait for a weekly meeting. It shouldn't
Yeah.
wait for the monthly reports to come out.
Yeah.
That's too late,
Yeah.
right? There's another example. I can come up with
Yeah.
about 100,000 more if you'd like, but
Because it's something that you said there, I think that is true. People don't go to the office to fail. So the system fails to them because actually they feel audited or under-resourced. And
mm,
so it should be the other way around, where the systems recognize all their capabilities, value, input, and things that they want to do as the best of their knowledge instead of babysitting the system. So what would be a mindset shift, if you meant, to a C-level that they need to make in these circumstances?
I think it's basically focusing on all the stuff that we've been talking about. To
Right, right.
shift from collecting everything, all this data, right, to acting on what matters now.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. It's about signal versus noise, right? Three rules for real-time clarity and
Hmm.
certainty is A, kill the lag, right?
Right.
Prioritize live feeds in a meaningful presentation, like a dashboard or something like that,
Yeah.
over batch reports.
Yeah.
Yeah. And leaders should demand context, right? Every metric should tie to a risk, should
Right.
tie to compliance or performance goals. There has to be a purpose behind everything that you're measuring, right? Otherwise, there's absolutely no point.
Yeah.
Yeah. And design for visibility. Insights should be available without needing a meeting to explain them,
Right.
right? So basically the C level is responsible for, for making sure the strategy is put in place to kill the lag, to make sure that, information has context, right?
Yeah.
Strategic context, governance context, risk-based context. And if they're going to start demanding reporting on certain metrics, they should design that metric in a way that it is practically self-explanatory, like the
Right.
insights, are available without having to go to a meeting and explain the science of the metric,
Right.
right?
Right.
It should be fairly obvious. And all that means is that, um, you just want to be careful how
Yeah.
complicated you make something, right?
Yeah.
So something like OEE,
Yeah.
right? That's about as sensible as you can get for manufacturing assets. The assets, production lines, that kind
Yeah.
of stuff. Overall equipment effectiveness. It's going to tell you how all those assets are performing, and it can be broken down asset by asset and a whole production line.
Right.
That's a very, very handy one. You don't want to have to calculate that yourself.
Yeah.
It's a fairly involved calculation that includes maintenance time, maintenance time that was planned versus unplanned versus the time that the production line was purposely shut down
Yeah.
versus what is the total capacity, what was the amount of capacity you were planning versus how many units of production, like how many units you produced versus how many were waste,
Yeah.
how many good units versus how many units. You take all of those numbers and you end up in this OEE calculation.
Right. Right.
Now, do you want to have to do that and wait a week to find out that a particular production line is failing you? Or, do you design it, do you come up with your own, or you to go with OEE that is automatically calculated by a product like Trinity
Right.
anyway,
Yeah.
right? That's what I mean. Design for visibility is manufacturers and people who work on production lines. They know that
Yeah.
number, that metric, that KPI,
Right.
right?
Right.
Designing your own and modify, um, uh, that carries with it risk because
Yeah.
people won't necessarily understand it, and you'll have to have meetings to discuss it, and that just adds delay to the OODA loop, doesn't it?
Yeah. And when you design Trinity
Mm.
as a platform, how it comes into all the things that we're discussing here. So in the real time data managing. So what makes the platform so different from anything else in the market?
Well, unless you're going with and only a few, all the modules,
Right.
all the strategic ESG, GRC, et cetera, of very, very expensive monolithic ERP systems.
Right.
Unless you're going down that road, and SMEs and MMEs can't really afford that,
Yeah.
um, then there isn't going to be any linkage that I'm aware of at this time amongst our competitors between the top floor and the shop floor. There is no
Right.
fully integrated GRC and operations management platform that I'm aware of.
Right.
Um, we built ours for real-time clarity. Clarity to who? Clarity to the decision makers,
Right.
so that they can make different decisions, modify things, see the results, etc. Not just reporting that goes to the operators. The
Yeah.
operators and eventually end up reporting to strategy. Strategy collects this information until it's time to have a meeting,
Yeah.
and there's no metric, there's no target, there's no, it's just, I didn't want to build another one of those. And
Yeah.
that's why we've got GRC and operations management
Right. Right.
very closely integrated. We connect all that frontline activity, assets, asset maintenance, asset management, order execution, production orders, sales orders, service orders, etc. I mean, even all of those, stock management and stuff like that with auto associated greenhouse gas emission factors, the new EPR
EPR,
stuff.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Associated safety, all of that activity is connected directly to GRC strategy,
right,
risks,
right,
controls, ESG metrics in one layer, live and contextual. You don't need to hunt for insight. It's built
right,
in.
yeah,
And that is the key differentiator of Trinity,
right,
is that insight is built into the product, not just for operations, not just for maintenance best practices of a maintenance manager,
yeah,
but from the absolute top floor all the way to the shop floor for
right,
multiple companies rolled up into, organizational strategy.
right, right.
Yeah, and I'm very passionate about that, especially closing the OODA loop, making sure the right data is
Yeah,
collected by the right people at the right time, and there's a purpose
yeah,
behind all of the data. There has to be a purpose. Either, different complex means of doing operational execution
yeah,
or different means of strategizing and stuff like that, right?
yeah,
Is all of that complexity is just a heck of a lot of different settings, but that's why we go through that, a fairly exhaustive questionnaire, getting to know the company's business
right,
model. And we have enough experience to have a fairly general understanding of what it is they're going to need.
yeah,
So our job isn't to implement software, it's to provision the decision-making loop
right,
from top floor to shop floor.
right. Whoa, it's a lot of digest here because actually it's not just different modules. It's a platform really where everything interconnect with each other, and then you can drill down. I guess actually assurance is part of the big game here too,
Oh
where
yeah.
everything is auditable and you don't have to wait for specialists to make audits or to do well, audits start to get messy. So in terms to it's a lot of digest. So, but I think that we should be wrapping up here because actually we go too long and we get into many details. So, what you will say would be the final advice for C-level decision makers here, with from chaos in terms of data to real-time data, chaos to clarity.
Okay, I guess I would just say
Yeah,
in parting to focus on timing, clarity,
right.
and integration, right? Kill that lag. If your data shows up late, so will your decisions,
Yeah,
right? Avoid silos. This is critical that separate strategy and operations. Okay.
yeah.
Strategy is, governance, risk, and compliance,
Compliance. Yeah,
including ESG, including EPR as a subset, right? And frontline execution of your operation. They must operate on a shared layer of truth.
right,
And I believe that is, that's a critical decision, is choosing one that is integrated, right?
right,
Don't build for reports, build for action, right? If you're
right,
going
right.
to put together a system for managing your business, it should drive timely responses. So you can go with Trinity where it's baked in. But if you don't go with us, right, be very careful. Don't build for reports, build for
Right.
action, not just, you know, uh, auditing, right?
Yeah.
And last but not least, automate what matters. Yeah. The goal is insight at the point of decision, not at the end of the month.
Right. Right.
And don't solve technology problems with man hours. That's my last one,
Yeah.
right? There's a lot of things coming down the pipeline. Governments are going to want more.
Yeah.
Compliance is going to be harder. Standards, expectations, reporting to the government, and it'll impact fees and bottom line and all that other kind of stuff,
Yeah.
right? And dealing with that complexity can't be done in an auditory manner. It has to be done with a very, very short OODA loop.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And think in response, think and respond in real time, because leadership today demands speed with certainty.
Yeah.
Stakeholders demand it. They don't want to know that what we're meeting about is, 3 months old, 1 month old, even 2 weeks old. Tolerance levels are, impatience is
Yeah.
increasing. If you just take a look at the reporting turnaround time required by the UK government with EPR for companies that weren't prepared for that. Oh, you
Jeez.
know,
Yeah.
and that's patient, right?
Yeah.
If you were looking into the initial version of RAM, and when the first, the concepts were launched around EPR, you could have already been prepared with packaging recipes and impact
Yeah.
and potential cost forecasts and change as the policies change. You want to be able to change the strategic inputs, right? And then also the operational inputs, the price for a packaging recipe, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
Basically, there's very few systems out there that can manage that can help you. And last but not least, last bit of advice for C-level, give us a call. We're
Yeah.
happy to help. I don't know how else to say it.
Yeah.
We didn't start building this. We didn't even begin to put down a little bit of code until we had 30 years of experience in business,
Yeah.
right? And that matters, because I'm sorry, but a 25-year-old in his garage is not going to know what I know before he starts building
Yeah.
a platform, right?
And I remember you mentioned that even before starting, you had a checklist of around 300 items that
Yeah.
not even the large enterprise software could solve today. So, and this is brought down to the mid market now. So it's absolutely fantastic. They are
Well,
probably
this is where the
they're going
gap
to
is,
spend a
right? Is
fortune
there's
just to get something similar.
lots of people charging lots of money for the big enterprises, right?
Right.
That's the way it's been for my entire career. And I just feel there was such a gap, smaller businesses that are just as complex in terms of their
Yeah.
business model,
Yeah.
with tools that are simple, like low budget equals simplicity when it comes to the tool. And I
Yeah.
just don't think that bothered me. So, we're both passionate about this. It's why, we joined up together. It's why we're in business together.
Yeah.
It's just that passion to actually deliver value to companies who, well, go with the alternative, and the likelihood of you getting the same value is very, very, very low.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay,
Yeah,
fantastic. Well, I think actually this is a fantastic advice, and we will connect again next week for another fascinating topic on what is going on in the industry and how Trinity can help companies.
great.
Okay,
Thanks, Frank. That was a
fantastic.
good session today.
Yeah,
Love that topic.
yeah. Thank you very much. Bye bye.
Bye bye.